It's customary for us to begin our meeting with a prayer by a commissioner. And during this time, you're welcome to stand and join us in that prayer. You're welcome to use this time to have your own prayer, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence, whichever you prefer. And at this time, I'll call on Lou Richardson for the invocation, and then Mr. Wayne Outlaw for our pledge allegiance to the flag.
Dear Heavenly Father, it is again we come into your presence with thankful hearts and minds. Thank you for this day that you have given us. Thank you for bringing us to this place and for the purpose that we're here. We ask for your guidance in all that we say and do. We thank you for bringing us through the storm. Thank you for protecting and guiding us through it. And even thanking you, Lord, for allowing us to assist those that were in need, because we can only serve you by serving one another. We ask you to keep us safe in all that we say and do, and forgive us for the times that we have failed you. For us in the name of Christ we say it all. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank the two commissioners. Also, I'm going to take a moment of privilege and wish a happy birthday to one of our members a day early. I want this board to be the first one to wish her a happy birthday. Miss Wells, I think, will be the grand old 83 in the morning if our church bulletin was right yesterday.
39 and holding.
39 and holding. But
Actually, her daughter's birthday's today, so.
all right. We'll wish you a happy birthday, and I just hope
Thank you.
that I have the energy and spirit that you have when I'm 83, and far beyond as well. Next is the approval of the minutes. I'm now on item number 4. We have 2 sets of minutes for the regular meeting on August the 5th, and then for our recess meeting on August the 19th. I'd entertain a motion for approval of both of those, or any changes or corrections that you see we need to point out at this time.
Move for approval.
I have a motion to approve and a second. Any questions on those minutes or the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Wish again to thank our clerk who does such a great job with our minutes.
Right.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, it is a public comment session or section on our agenda. And what this is for is to allow anyone from the public that wishes to address the Board of Commissioners on a monthly basis to come forward. We do have a sign-up time or period out front before the meeting. I'm a little bit lax on that with the board permission, and if someone missed that and wishes to speak to us, we'd be glad for you to come forward this time. I had one person to sign up, and I'm going to take care of that in just a bit, Mr. Burns. Anyone else wish to speak at this time? Now, if you want to speak on a public hearing or anything that's on the agenda, we'd wait to that time. Other than that, you could come forward now and state your name.
Okay, I was going to speak on something that's already on the agenda.
Okay, if you don't mind, if you would wait, I should have made that a little bit clearer, but if you'll wait till that item comes up, that would be great. This is really just for things that are not on the agenda. Okay, seeing no one else, I didn't feel it would give you due diligence or proper introduction, Mr. Burns, but at this time, if you come forward, I'd certainly like to welcome you to Nash County. This is our interim superintendent of schools. I appreciate you signing up, appreciate you being here this morning, but if you just let us know, we'd have put you on the agenda, sir. But welcome.
Chair Davis, Vice Chair Outlaw, Commissioners, I am Dale Burns. As the chair mentioned, I will be serving as the interim superintendent for Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools for the next 6 months. During this time, the Board of Education will be engaged in a search for a real superintendent. So after 6 months, I can slip back into retirement. I've been on board 2.5 weeks, and I've had the opportunity to visit every school, meet with every board member, meet with most of the central office staff, and I have learned a lot. There are some challenges and great opportunities in Nash Rocky Mount Public Schools. And at this point, we are working to better clarify some of those challenges and opportunities. My goal is to work to resolve what we can and to lay the groundwork so that the real superintendent, once he or she takes office, will be able to move the district forward. I'm excited to be here. I am not from this area, but I'm originally from Wayne County. Grew up near Seven Springs, if you know where that is, a little bit out in the country, and I'm pleased to be back east of I-95. I've been in Raleigh for a long time. Not that I have answers at this point, but I will be happy to respond to any question that any commissioner might have.
Well, we thank you for that. Any commissioner have a particular question? And let's be fair with him, since this is second week on the job here, or third week on the job, but any questions or comments at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I did talk with one of the school board members who were involved in interviewing you, and their comments to me that you're very knowledgeable and believe you're suitable for the job, so we look forward to working with you.
Thank you, sir.
Other comments? I'd just like to show the appreciation of the board for telling you that we certainly appreciate you being here. I hope the 6 months is not written in stone, and if you during that period of time decide that you wish to go back to work, I think this board would welcome you, even though it's not in our preview to pick the next superintendent, and we never do that, do not get involved in it. I'm just delighted to have somebody of your quality and past history in Wake County and maybe some other counties. I followed you while you were there, but I'm just delighted to have you here. I'm sure you can bring a lot to the table for Nash County, and thank you for doing it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. Look forward to talking with you more in the future. And if you don't mind, not to be rude, but I will not remain for the rest of your meeting. I have some work to do up the road here. Thank you very much.
You've already been to all of our facilities. You're off and running, and I appreciate you doing that as well. I've heard comments about that already. Thank you. We're now on item number 6, which is recognition for Morgan Dowdy as the 2019 Senior Health Insurance Information Program Coordinator of the Year. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning. Put my peepers on. This is a
Michelle?
side effect to working at a senior center.
It
Glasses.
is. So it's contagious, I got it.
Well, it's a great honor for me to come and be able to share with you that Morgan Dowdy, the Nash County Senior Center Supervisor, was named the 2019 Seniors Health Insurance Information Programs Statewide Coordinator of the Year for North Carolina. And I'm sure we all know that there's 100 counties in North Carolina, and out of all 100 counties that all have representation for the SHIP program, Nash County's very own Morgan was chosen for that honor. SHIP is a division of the North Carolina Department of Insurance, and the program is designed to answer seniors' questions and to provide Medicare beneficiaries and their caregivers with non-biased information about Medicare, Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage plans, prescription drug plans, long-term care insurance, and other health insurance concerns. Morgan is a graduate of Campbell University, my alma mater. That's not why I hired her. And she's been an employee of the Nash County Recreation and Senior Services Department since July of 2017. She served as an activity specialist for 1 year. During that time, Morgan showed great initiative and enthusiasm as she worked to implement new programming at the Nash County Senior Center and to bring more visibility to our center and our programs. In 2018, she was promoted to Senior Center Supervisor. Morgan has served as a Nash County SHIP Coordinator since 2017 and is responsible for coordinating all SHIP activities throughout the county. Since her time as SHIP Coordinator, Morgan, along with other SHIP volunteers, have worked to save Medicare beneficiaries in Nash County a total of $260,572. I do want to note that these are actual dollars It's not theoretical money. This is $260,572 that without the efforts of our SHIP volunteers, our seniors would have been paying directly out of their pockets on an annual basis for each of them for their Medicare and prescription drug costs. Morgan has worked to create a phenomenal social media presence in the community in order to bring awareness not only to SHIP, but to senior services in Nash County. She's gained a great working knowledge of the SHIP program and has done an excellent job with partnering with key people in the county and surrounding areas to help meet the needs of Nash County older adults. We're very proud of Morgan's accomplishments and her efforts, and for the great honor of her being recognized as 2019 SHIP Statewide Coordinator of the Year.
Thank you. Anyone from the board wish to make any comments?
I just think it's always nice to hear things about our employees and what they're doing, and to tell you how proud we are to have you as an employee of Nash County.
Absolutely. Other comments?
Our senior center under our assistant county manager was really a senior center on the rise, and it has only continued to rise under Ms. McKnight, and the quality of people that you have in your area of responsibility is just amazing, and the things that you're doing are amazing to continue to provide for the citizens of Nash County. And I thank you for what you're doing.
Thank
you, Ms. Stout.
Thank you.
I would just say, Morgan, I'll be honest with you, try to find out a little bit about you prior to coming in here this morning, and went to my encyclopedia Facebook to find out a little bit about you. I don't know you real well, unfortunately, but I found out on the 28th over at Nash Community College when you had your program over there how much you must enjoy your job. I could just look at you, and it was just obvious that you really enjoy what you're doing. You may be like myself, I'm a workaholic, but I've never had seven jobs, but the only one I didn't enjoy, that was priming in the back of the first job I ever had, but all the rest of them I love. But it's just great to see people that enjoy what they're doing. I saw you do like to travel a little bit, and apparently recently went to Disney World. If I understood the picture of the building in the background, first I thought it was the place up in Asheville, but then I realized it wasn't. It was in Disney World. And you seem very happy down there as well. But we appreciate what you do for Nash County and the senior citizens. And I can tell you this board appreciates it a lot, because we understand what goes on over there, and a few times that we get the time spent over there, it just seems like it's a great atmosphere, and I'm sure that's tribute to both you ladies and the other ladies that you have working over there, which I saw a few of them come in. There they are over there. Well, we certainly thank y'all. I know that we have one of the better senior center programs in the state of North Carolina, and just pleased to death to have the other facility open also. But thank you for what you do, ma'am. And keep your happy face.
Thank you.
It's amazing, though, to see the accomplishments that she's made in 2.5 years here with Nash County. It shows that Nash County has some good employees.
Yes.
And not only that, we have employees that save the county money.
Absolutely.
Would save the citizens money as well,
Yeah.
in this case. Sure did.
And I want to also mention that both her mom and dad are here today.
Oh, wonderful.
Her mom is a previous Nash County employee as well.
Okay, great. Well, you should be proud parents back there. Thank y'all.
Thank you very much.
We now move to item number 7, which is a public hearing on general rezoning request for 1.3 acres on South Halifax Road in the Joiner Crossing at Mill Branch Shopping Center, from rural commercial to general commercial. And I call on Mr. Tyson to make that presentation this time. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. This is the first of 2 rezoning requests on your agenda this morning. This will be a regular legislative public hearing. The second item will be a quasi-judicial public hearing. The subject property is a 1.3 acre lot, further identified as parcel 4 of the Mill Branch subdivision, currently in the ownership of the Robert C. Davis Revocable Trust. You can see it on your screen. here outlined in red. And then on the zoning map to the right, it's outlined in yellow. This is the Joiners Crossing Shopping Center. That's the food line, the anchor store there, along with the strip mall and the parking lot. The subject property is an undeveloped out parcel of this shopping center located at the southeast corner of Joiners Crossroads, which of course is the intersection of East NC 97 and South Halifax Road. The lot's currently zoned RC. You can see it's in the pinkish color over here on the zoning map. It means it's intended to accommodate limited, moderately intensive commercial development, typically appropriate for what you'd see at rural road intersections. The lot is not located in a regulated floodplain. It is in a watershed protection overlay district, but it already, the shopping center as a whole has an existing drainage system and on-site retention pond, which you can see over here to the north side of the property. And that retention pond will allow this property to be built upon up to 70% of its total lot area, or just under 40,000 square feet. The lot is also located in the Tarpamlico River Basin, meaning normally it would be subject to nutrient reduction stormwater regulations. However, the county attorney has worked with myself and the School of Government to establish that this particular development enjoys a common law vested right, meaning that they get to develop the subject property up to the full 70% that was calculated based on the stormwater pond that's already been constructed. It is located in proximity to the airport, and so very tall structures would be prohibited by the ordinance. Nothing that you would expect to see in regular commercial development would exceed that height limitation. The property has access to Nash County Public Water Service via an existing 4-inch line along South Halifax Road, running down this way. And then the property has access to Nash County sewer as well, interior to the shopping center. I believe the access for this property is at a manhole somewhere near this corner right here. And so it does have access to both public utilities, water and sewer. The rezoning request has been submitted by the property owner in order to rezone this property from RC Rural Commercial to GC General Commercial. Basically what that means is that the new zoning district would permit a wider range of more intensive commercial land uses than the current district, including shopping centers such as this one. That district is primarily intended for locations that have access to major thoroughfares such as this one, which has access to East NC 97, and those that have urban utility services, which we just covered. Both services are present, water and sewer. Included in your package today is an excerpt from the table of permitted uses. Everything that is highlighted in yellow on this table is something that is not necessarily permitted under the current rezoning, but would be permitted if the request is approved, at least under certain permitting circumstances. And you can see as I go through that there are a number of new uses that this will open it up to. If I can go back. All right. What I'd call your attention to on this table is on the right-hand side of your screen down at the bottom right corner. It indicates that a shopping center is a use that's intended for the requested GC General Commercial Zoning District and was not intended to be developed into rural commercial. And so this rezoning, even if it included the entire shopping center, would just be bringing it into compliance with what the ordinance requirements are today. So that's what I wanted to point out on that table. Of course, the two tools we use to evaluate a rezoning are the land development plan and concerns about spot zoning. This property is consistent with the recommendations of the Nash County Land Development Plan, because if you'll note on the screen, this is an excerpt from our land development plan map. The subject lot is located in that red general commercial area that was previously designated at Joiners Crossroads. And so the land development plan has already foreseen and forecast that this property should be rezoned to general commercial because it's in that red node. That area is intended to encourage the development of more intensive and efficient commercial land uses, such as shopping centers with shared road access and interconnectivity. And then, of course, the fact that the property has connections to both public water and sewer is consistent with the land development plan. In terms of spot zoning, if we can return to the zoning map here. It would not be considered unreasonable spot zoning because, number one, it's an out parcel of an existing shopping center. It's already zoned for commercial use. This will just be slightly broader commercial use. Subject property is located in close proximity to an already existing GC zoning district on the north side of 97 up here. That, of course, is an existing Dollar General property. And so that's the same zoning district that has been requested for this property today. It's also consistent with the land development plan and again has access to both public water and sewer utilities. The TRC reviewed this request back on August the 1st. They recommended approval. The planning board considered this request on August 19th. No members of the public addressed the board with regard to this request, and therefore the planning board voted unanimously to recommend, number one, approval of consistency statement A that's included in your package, finding the request to be reasonable in the public interest, consistent with the recommendations of the land development plan and not spot zoning, and then approval of the request itself to rezone the property to GC general commercial. This is a two-motion process. The board will need to adopt a consistency statement first. You have two suggestions in your packet, and then a second motion to actually approve or deny the zoning map amendment. And I will be glad to take any questions that the board may have.
All right, any questions of Mr. Tyson at this time from board members? Yeah. Mr. Belfield?
Why change that zone to general commercial? Can't the intent of the owners do the same thing with it zone as it is?
Well, if you recall the table of permitted uses, it had all the things highlighted in yellow. The owner of that property wishes to be able to market that for a broader range of commercial uses. And so if they leave it zoned the way it is, it's a more narrow selection of commercial things that they can do with the property. So this will widen the possibilities of things that they can market that for commercial use.
All right, have you looked at traffic situation there?
Typically, traffic would be looked at by NCDOT when a driveway request comes in for a driveway permit. Obviously, this property is not at that stage because we don't know the particular use. We don't have a site plan. But the DOT would be the authority that would determine if a driveway permit would require additional improvements into the right-of-way. What I would anticipate is that this property may only have access from the interior of the shopping center, so it may not have a direct driveway to South Halifax Road. You may enter one of the already existing driveways here or here to come off of 97 or South Halifax and then access this parcel from the interior of the shopping center.
Well, the reason I asked the question because we're talking about a small amount, 1.3 acres. And I personally don't see why you need to change it, that it can be developed as is.
It can be. There's just a fewer number of commercial uses on the list that they could do under the current zoning.
Basically changing it, all you're doing is adding on a lot of things that can be used
That's
for.
correct.
Yeah.
Mr. Tyson, I think I heard you also say that the shopping center itself, if it were coming in today, would be in the zone we're changing it to.
If this shopping center were proposed to be constructed today, then a first step would be to rezone the entire property to GC because that's how it's permitted in the ordinance.
It's a kind of a change in our ordinance since the shopping center was built in itself. It's there by right, but it's really not in the correct zone. And it's more aligning with what it should be. Any other questions, Mr. Belfield? Other questions from board members? Thank you, Mr. Tyson. At this time, excuse me, hold on just a minute, Mr. Tyson. The manager told me he had a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the existing shopping center is under the old zoning, so it's technically a non-conforming use.
It's a legal non-conforming use.
Right.
And the owner of the property is just getting this one parcel. I'm just wondering why the entire complex, we're not looking at changing that so it's all conforming and has the potential of those other out
Right.
parcels, we won't have to come back to us every time.
There was an opportunity to do that now. We had that discussion with the applicant. One thing to keep in mind is that the entire shopping center is not under a single ownership anymore. There are two entities that own different parcels. And so ultimately, the applicant decided to just go forward with this one now. But had they proposed the entire shopping center, I believe the TRC and the planning board would have been just as supportive of that request as of this one. But there is a split ownership on those properties now.
And if we ever reviewed our plan, this is something the staff would look at as far as changing the whole.
Well, I think this is something
Does it
that,
affect the value, the difference in these two categories?
if it did, I think that this would increase I don't work in the tax department, so I can't say, but I would think it would increase the value because it gets able to be marketed for a broader continuum of uses.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? I think Mr. Lamb's trying to increase our tax base again. Good thing. Thank you, Mr. Tyson. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing on this particular rezoning to a general commercial from rural commercial. And if there's anyone in the audience that wishes to speak for or against this item, at this time, we'd ask you to come forward, state your name and address, and the board would certainly be pleased to hear from you. Anyone wishes to speak on it? Seeing no movement, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Richardson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Public hearing is now closed, and as Mr. Tyson pointed out, we would need two motions. First one would be concerning a consistency statement, and you generally have an A or a B in there, and I'd entertain a motion for one of the consistency statements at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of consistency statement A related to the general rezoning request.
All right, have a motion for consistency statement A, those items listed below that. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? That motion carries. Therefore, I'd request a motion to approve or deny the rezoning at this time.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the general rezoning request.
Have a motion to approve the rezoning request. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richardson. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. Maybe we can put that one in the books. Mr. Tyson, you want to move on to item 8 while you had the podium, sir?
All right.
Excuse me just one second. Mr. Belfield?
I would like to suggest this, that we take a total look at our land development plan, and that maybe some of these zoning requests, we may not need them.
Well, actually, we have that underway, and we have set
Well, I
a specific
just want
time for it.
to, I understand that. I want to
Okay.
emphasize that we need to
Okay.
hurry up and get on with it.
Okay, I think we've set a timetable for that, have we not, Mr. Tyson? And I'm assuming you have it underway or working on it.
Right. Well, the first step of that process is to interview some potential consultant vendors, and we hope to do that in the next few months.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Belfield. I think we do have that underway based on some other items that have come up recently. Now, we're on a quasi judicial public hearing for conditional use rezoning request to rezone 1.76 acres at Flood Chapel Road to GCCU. Mr. Tyson?
As the chairman said, this is two adjacent properties. You can see them highlighted in red on the aerial photo to the left. You have a larger property and then a smaller property, both encompassed by the red rezoning area. This is, of course, the Floods Chapel Crossroads at West NC Highway 97 and South NC Highway 581. That's between the town of Spring Hope to the north and the town of Bailey to the south. This is the southeastern corner of that intersection, which is up for rezoning. If you'll refer to the zoning map over on the right, you'll see the same area highlighted in yellow, and you'll see that there is a mixture of zoning districts currently within that within that boundary. You have the pinkish RC rural commercial that's right at the intersection. Then you have the R40 residential zoning district covering the eastern portion, and then a little sliver of R30 residential along the northern boundary or the southern side of the NC 97 right-of-way. So it has 3 different zoning classifications today. The property currently includes a residential dwelling at 5057, so that would be the home right here, and a former commercial store that's kind of catty corner to the intersection at 5095, and that would be right here. And then there are a scattering of other residential accessory buildings found on the lot. This is a survey of the existing conditions of the property, so you can see the existing home, the existing store, and then those buildings that I was referring to. Property is not located in a regulated floodplain. However, it does have a riparian stream buffer along the eastern side over here, which will limit development on that side of the property because there are certain areas that cannot be disturbed. And it's located in the Nash River Basin and the WS3 BW Watershed Protection Overlay District. Property has access to Nash County Public Water Service via existing 12-inch water lines installed along both highways, 97 and 581, so it can get water from either direction. And there is no public sewer service currently available, so new development would continue to utilize private on-site septic systems. The rezoning request brought before you this morning is brought by the current property owner, Mrs. Joan E. Brown, as well as Glandon Forest Equity LLC, the prospective developer. They are joint applicants in this request to rezone the property to GCCU, General Commercial Conditional Use, specifically for the development of a general merchandise retail store to be constructed and operated by the Dollar General Corporation. And so you can see on your screen now the proposed site plan. It depicts a 9,100 square foot retail store here in the center of the property with a 46 space paved parking lot. And you see, of course, the parking spaces here, a single driveway out to NC Highway 581. The southwest area of the site is where the on-site septic system will be installed. And then there's some area reserved in the southeast for the stormwater management pond, which would be in this vicinity right here. And then, as I mentioned earlier, you have a riparian stream buffer that leaves an area not to be disturbed along the eastern portion of the property. The site will be screened from view of the immediately adjacent residentially zoned properties to the south and east by a 6-foot-high opaque fence that runs along both of those property lines, the south side and the east side. And then it'll be partially screened from view from the adjacent road rights-of-way by a proposed vegetative buffer consisting of a mixture of understory trees and evergreen shrubs. And when I say partially screened from the roadway, obviously the applicant has an interest in being visible to potential customers. The primary purpose of that screening is to block headlights from the neighbors. The relatively low evergreen shrubs serve that purpose, and then several trees, which will be added along the perimeter of the property. This is a conditional use request, so the permitted use of the property would be limited to just a general merchandise retail store only if you approve it, and it can only be approved in accordance with this proposed site plan. And so if the applicant needed to make a substantial change to this site plan, they would be required to go through the same process and bring it back before you for re-review and reapproval. As I noted, the property is located in the WS3 BW Watershed Protection Overlay District, meaning that the development of the site would normally be limited to a maximum allowable built-upon area of only 24%. So basically, only a quarter of the property could be built upon with rooftop, asphalt, pavement, concrete. However, the site plan we just looked at proposes a total built-upon area of 43.62%, which obviously exceeds that standard 24% limitation. So the ordinance provides this board what's called the 1070 watershed development option. It's an option where you can grant on a case-by-case basis permission to exceed that 24% standard limitation and allow certain projects to go up to 70% of coverage. A stipulation is that engineered stormwater controls, such as the wet detention pond I mentioned, are involved, and of course they are here. The catch for this process is that the board can only utilize it for 10% of the total land area included in the whole district. So you have on the screen a map in green of the entire watershed protection overlay district that we're concerned with. The site of the development is here at this red dot up in the northwest corner of the kind of blob here. It is, the total area in Nash County is 1,923.03 acres. And so the board retains the right to approve projects to exceed the normal limitation on 10% or 192.3 acres of that total district area. I was not able to uncover any records of Nash County previously utilizing this option. So it's my belief that at this time, the county has the full 10% at its disposal to grant in the future. The subject property is only 1.76 acres, which means that if you grant approval here, that will consist of less than 1% of your total bank of land that you can give out this option on. You would have about 99.08% of the total available area left to be granted in the future. So it is a small impact in the overall total that you're allowed to give out. The land development plan provides some criteria to help you select which projects should be granted this specific option. And that's the next table that's in your packet. It provides a points-based project selection criteria for the 1070 watershed development option. Each project is assigned a point score based on several factors, which you can see down the left-hand side of the table. Those factors include their potential contribution to the tax base, the number of new full-time jobs that will be created, the quality of employee benefits to be provided, whether a project will reuse an existing building, and whether or not there are available public utilities. And so you can see that this project has been rated according to all those criteria on this table. The land development plan recommends a score of at least 40 points before a project should be qualified for consideration. As you can see down here in this corner right here, the project scored a total of 60 points out of a possible 75. And so it definitely qualifies for consideration and is therefore recommended for consideration by the board for approval of this option. Of course, the two standard tools that we use to evaluate rezoning, the land development plan and spot zoning. This request is consistent with the recommendations of the land development plan because the subject property is again, much like the last one, already located in a rural commercial area that has been designated at Flood's Chapel Crossroads. And so this pink color here is the rural commercial area that was previously designated back in 2006, where Nash County said it wanted to encourage rural commercial development. And you can see the subject site outlined in yellow right there at the intersection. The rural commercial area is intended to encourage the development of small-scale, limited commercial services, such as this proposed retail store that are appropriate for crossroads development in predominantly rural or agricultural areas. The proposed retail store will not require public sewer utility service. It can be accommodated by an on-site septic system, which is also compliant with the plan. And it is intended to primarily serve a local customer base consisting of the surrounding residential population. The proposed retail store is not something that we think will attract customers regionally. It is basically there to serve the existing residents. Of course, we have several other Dollar Generals throughout the county, and so what you would assume is that people will drive to the one that's closest to them. So this one is intended to accommodate either the people who live in the area or the people who are already passing through on either West NC 97 or NC 581. It would not be considered unreasonable spot zoning. If I can go back to the rezoning map, you'll notice that a majority of the property is already zoned for commercial use in that pink color. The request is consistent with the land use plan, as we just talked about. And again, the conditional use nature of the request and the proposed screening measures should limit the potential impact of the development on the surrounding area, because they will be limited to just this one permitted land use, and they can only develop it in compliance with the proposed site plan. The TRC reviewed this request back on August the 1st and recommended approval subject to suggested conditions. The planning board met to review this on August 19th. The application was presented by Mr. Brent Purdom with Triangle Site Design, who is here with us this morning. It was supported by Dale Brantley, the property owner's son-in-law, and then 6 members of the public addressed the board in opposition to the request. Those members of the public cited concerns about traffic volume, traffic safety, water runoff, and potential property value impacts. In terms of traffic, I can tell you that the NC DOT is actively planning a safety upgrade of this intersection, and they have evaluated this site plan. The original site plan included an entrance off of both highways, one off of 97 and one off of 581. And at the request and recommendation of the DOT, they have redesigned the site to remove the NC 97 driveway. They could have had it, but the cost would have been prohibitive because of the safety requirements that NC DOT would require in relationship to this upgrade of the intersection. And so NC DOT is actively and urgently pursuing some solutions to some safety concerns at this intersection, and have worked with the TRC to make sure that the proposal will be compliant with those. After hearing all the input from the public and the applicant, the planning board voted unanimously to recommend 3 things. Number 1, approval of consistency statement A, finding the request to be reasonable in the public interest, consistent with the land development plan, and not unreasonable spot zoning. 2, approval of the request to rezone the property to GCCU. And then finally, approval of the issuance of a conditional use permit for the development of a general merchandise retail store, and to authorize the 1070 watershed development option that we discussed previously. This is a 3-motion process. You have your standard consistency statement, and then a motion to approve or deny the map amendment. And then because this requires a conditional use permit, there is a 3rd motion to do that, and to at the same time authorize the 1070 watershed development option. Because this is a conditional use permit, there are 5 standards that the board must find that the application meets. You must conclude, number 1, that the proposal meets all the standards required by the Unified Development Ordinance. Number 2, that the development will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Number 3, that the development will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property. Number 4, the proposed development will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located. And number 5, that it will be in general conformity with the land development plan. And included in your package are those 5 conclusions, as well as some supporting findings of facts organized under each heading that I'll be glad to talk more about if we need to. And then, of course, because this is a conditional use permit, there are 3 suggested conditions. Number 1, the property can only be developed for a general merchandise retail store and only in accordance with the approved site plan. Number 2, because this is 2 separate properties, prior to the development of the store, the applicant needs to record the proper documentation to combine those 2 parcels into a single lot. And then number 3 just outlines the other permits and documents that will be required from other agencies before the property is permitted for construction. Mr. Brent Purdom, as I mentioned, from Triangle Site Design, is here to represent the application. Once we open the quasi-judicial public hearing, I do ask that the board would accept the report and all the supplemental documents, the maps and charts, as part of the evidence submitted during the quasi-judicial public hearing. And I'll be glad to take any questions before we proceed to that.
Right. Any questions from Mr. Tyson? Very thoroughly presentation, but any questions at this time? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Tyson. Ladies and, let me back up one step. I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing on this matter at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs, there's a second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. One say Wells, one say Leggett. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign. Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in a public hearing on this conditional use. It is a quasi-judicial public hearing, which means that you have to be sworn in by the clerk prior to giving testimony on this. And what I'd like to do, if we could, is anyone that thinks they may wish to speak on this matter, if you would all come forward now at the same time. We'd like to swear you all in at the same time, just for the sake of time. So if you think you may wish to speak either for or against, please come forward and let the clerk swear you in at this time. Janice, I'll turn it over to you, man.
If you'll place your left hand on the Bible, on one of these Bibles, and raise your right hand.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I affirm.
Thank you.
And at this time, whichever person wishes to go first, we'd be glad to hear from you. Ask you to state your name and your address for the record.
I'm Michael Glover at 6329 South NC Highway 581. I am one of the lucky ones that got a letter from the planning board because I'm 600 feet from the intersection. My personal opinion about that needs to be reviewed for the county because 600 feet is not a lot of people in the rural community. In town, it's a lot more, I understand, but anyway, that's another day.
Understood.
To give you commissioners a quick history of Flood Chapel. I was born and raised in the area. Flood Chapel, of course, is the intersection of Highway 97 and 581. There were 3 stores in the intersection about 25 to 30 years ago, and I think I'm a little shy on that. I think it's been longer than that, but we'll go with that. The northeast corner, the northwest corner, and the southeast corner had 3, what we would call today, convenience stores, gas stations. They're no longer there. They haven't been there. One was converted to a home on the, that would be the northeast corner, was converted to a home. The other one, which was my dad's store, has been torn down. The third store, which is on the property that we're talking about, is falling down. So, you know, I'm saying 25 to 30 years, nobody has laid claim. Those stores were there, and they were never developed as a business afterwards for 25 to 30 years. So that said, I just believe, you know, corporations and businesses moving in on small communities is nothing new, and it can be a convenience to a community when proper due diligence has been executed and honest facts have been presented. I do not believe in this case that the due diligence will hold up in the case of our community support for a Dollar General store. The community has nearby convenience stores and a Dollar General in both Spring Hope, Bailey, Middlesex, Zebulon, Sandy Cross. They're everywhere. Most of our community are working families. They work away from home. They shop where they work and bring it home. They don't come home and then go shopping. So that's my 2 cents. But the corporations and businesses that flood the small communities and small towns just for the sake of numbers to meet some business goal or corporate agenda, or while we are losing rural America. People move to the country and the small communities to get away from the traffic, businesses for peace and quiet. Our area is mostly a residential community where people want to live because of less congestion in businesses. I pulled up the 2018 census for the Flood Chapel area. It's, 2018. Bailey had 561 people. The 2010 census, they had 569 people. They're losing people. Spring Hope in 2018 had 1,307 people. And in 2010, they had 1,320. So population's going down, it ain't going up. I understand business can help bring it up, but at this point, I don't understand it, why we have to have a Dollar General when we got so many around. I currently work for a large company where our motto and corporate purpose is to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that is entrusted to us, to have a positive influence on all who come in contact with us. That said, I think that's a lesson learned for some of these corporations. I just feel that this business is trying to meet some quota or corporate goal without truly considering the impact on our community. I'd like to ask if the zoning department, you guys, have actually been out and physically looked at the property, either one of them.
I have not, but somebody from our office has been out.
Okay. That's good to know. The difference between, at the planning meeting, the zoning department made reference that Sandy Cross was very similar to Flood's Chapel. And it is in respect that they both have churches. But as far as businesses, they don't. Sandy Cross has a gas convenience store, a restaurant, and a big produce company. Flood's Chapel has a car lot and a floor sanding business, which both of them are just about out of business. They're really not operating on a day-to-day basis. So that's the biggest difference I see in the two properties. And then the church just had their parking lot paved, and it dumps the majority of the water onto 581. 581 goes down, running south down toward our house. And I believe Mr. Cone and Ms. Leggett got a letter from one of my neighbors, an email, stating that when the state came in and cleaned the ditches out, it's dumped a bunch of water on my property. And if I could use a map, yeah, that map.
It'll take me just a
Yeah.
second to switch to this.
Okay, ladder. Thank you.
I can see it on there. There you go.
Okay. All right, this is Flood's Chapel Church here. This whole lot's been paved, all the watershed's coming out into the ditch across the front. Of course, they got a wide driveway, which runs out into the highway and also down this ditch. This is my father's house, this is my house. The water comes across here now, under about a 16-inch pipe under the highway. And then there's another pipe coming across 97 here. The water converges back here, and it goes into a pond which drains into Torsnot Swamp further down. Well, ever since this activity has happened up here, my backyard floods, which it never did before. I've lived there 32 years, and it's starting to flood. I've actually been to DOT and asked them if there's anything they could do to help me, and they said no. So, retention pond back here, that's going to be, when it fills up, it's got to dump somewhere. So it's going to be dumping in that watershed area there and adding to my problem. So I just want to ask you, county commissioners, if you were to be honest with yourself, would you approve a Dollar General in what I just told you in your backyard? Also, I'd like to ask you, if you would be honest with yourself, would you cast your disapproval for this business to help salvage what little remaining land that is left, which we call rural America? And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. The next speaker. You would state your name and address also, ma'am.
I'm Cheryl Glover. I live at 6329 South NC 581 in Spring Hope, North Carolina. A lot of the things that I have to say, he has already said, so I will just kind of pick the points that he has not discussed. First off is the intersection at this business. I know they say that they have talked with DOT and they have active plans to do something about this. In the 30-some years that I've lived there, I have heard this more than once, and nothing has ever come of it. And now we're looking at adding additional traffic up and down both 97 and 581 to access this business. Also at this intersection, we have a lot of school bus traffic. They are taking our students to Southern Nash Middle School and Southern Nash High School. Do we really need to add an additional distraction in this area to the traffic that's coming by having a store on that corner? When this was presented to us, it was presented as a great thing for our area, that it was a wonderful convenience because we wouldn't have to go so far to do our shopping. Well, if you leave our house and you go 6 miles to the north, you will reach Spring Hope. They have a Dollar General. In addition to the Dollar General, they have a food line, restaurants, and other businesses that draw in people. Going south on 581, in 6 miles also, you will reach Bailey. Bailey has a Piggly Wiggly, they have restaurants, and they have a Dollar General. If you go west, you will go to Zebulon. They have 3 Dollar Generals. They also have a Walmart, restaurants, and other businesses that support this. In addition to that, they are building 2 new ones. There's one on 97 and 58, and the one that he mentioned at Sandy Cross. We also have Dollar Generals in Middlesex, Sims, Bond, Red Oak, Sharpsburg, Nashville, and I don't know how many in Rocky Mount. They were calling this controlled change. The only people that are controlling the change are the people that are going to profit by making this change in the properties. There was concern, and we've talked about the water situation, and I will say that in the 600-foot area that was sent the notices, there are beekeepers, and these hives that are in this area are registered with Bee Watch in the state of North Carolina. And if they put this retention pond in, this is not some pretty little pond with ducks floating on it. It's a retention pond. What's going into that pond is petroleum products, oil and gas. It drips onto that hard surface, and when it rains, it washes off. Not to mention what people spill when they come out of the stores. Anything that goes into that retention pond potentially harms the bees. We have enough problems with trying to keep bees in the state of North Carolina, anywhere. We don't need to do anything that is going to further jeopardize. Their potential answer to this would be, well, we'll spray, we'll treat the water, but when you do that, then you have, again, put the bees in jeopardy. North Carolina Beekeeper Association, they're constantly doing research trying to save the bees. In Nash County, we sponsor youth to become beekeepers, and this is done by the Coastal Plain Beekeepers Association and Nash County Farm Bureau. I don't think this sends a good message to people that might be potential beekeepers in this area. And by the way, 1/3 of what you put in your mouth to eat every day has been pollinated by the bees. And we are in an agricultural county. And over the past few years, I have noticed these little signs that keep popping up, growing green with agriculture. And I really like that. And I'm proud of the agricultural background that our county has. But if we continue the trend that we have with Dollar Generals, they have already saturated our small towns. And now they want to start doing this at every crossroads. In fact, I read recently that their intent is to have a Dollar General at every crossroads, every 5 miles. And I ask you, is that really something that we want in Nash County? Is that how we want to be perceived in the county, as the Dollar General capital of North Carolina? I prefer actually to be growing green with agriculture. And again, I will ask you the question, if this were in your backyard, would you be in favor of it?
Thank you, Ms. Glover.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Next speaker.
Sir, I was not sworn in.
Uh,
Didn't know I had to be.
Okay, we can take
My
care.
name is Delbert Glover.
Give us just a second. We do need to swear you in, but we'll be glad to do that at this time. If you will come up.
You place your left hand on the
Janice.
Bible and raise your right hand.
Yes, sir. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear so help me God.
Thank you.
All right, now if you
My
would
name is
restate your...
Delbert Glover. I live in the residence next to this place where it's supposed to be built. Now, I got one question for you, gentlemen and ladies. Would you like to have a building, a business of this size put beside your house?
Okay.
Let your conscience be your guide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. Appreciate you being here this morning. Do we have others that wish to speak? Morning, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Christy Brantley. I live at 3717 Peachtree Hills Road in Spring Hope. My mother is the applicant, Joan Brown. She's the owner of the property that we are requesting the rezoning for the development of the general merchandise retail store. The development proposed, according to the planning board's recommendation for the approval on August the 19th, would meet requirements and regulations, I think, that are set forth by the planning department and the zoning department. And I think it falls in line with the county's planned development for this proposed development. The development being proposed, I think, will bring revenue to the county, create job opportunities for those in the community or surrounding area. And I think that a new building and a parking lot would replace a crumbling store and a house in need of repair. It's already been said here, but at the time that her father, my grandfather, operated his country store, which was also a general merchandise type business, and also sold gas. There were gas stations or country type businesses selling gas and general merchandise on 3 of those corners. So these types of businesses have already been operating there on that corner. And as you've heard, they're still owners of those businesses or family members of those businesses that own at the, that reside at the crossroad today. I think our decision to move forward with the proposed development was not taken lightly. The property has been listed previously for sale, and I think with what's being proposed today and it being falling within the planned development that the county currently has in place, I would appreciate your recommendation that this motion be approved and the development go forward as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bratton. Other speakers at this time? Good morning, sir.
Good morning. I'm Brent Purdom with Triangle Site Design. It's 4004 Barrett Drive, Raleigh, North Carolina.
The last name again, sir?
Purdom is P-U-R-D-U-M.
Thank you.
So I'm originally from Rocky Mount, and I live in Raleigh now. I went to the rival school, went to Northern Nash instead of Southern Nash. But kind of want to address
Nothing wrong with that school either, sir.
So one of the things I wanted to address, there's a couple of the comments. You know, DOT, we have talked to NC DOT about this, and they actually provided a plan. It wasn't their final plan, but it's to show that they are actively working on this intersection to make it a safer. You basically have these wings, what I like to call them, just, it's almost like turn lanes going into an intersection. They're removing all of those, and they're going to make it a true crossroads. But like I said, they're in process right now. The stormwater pond that we are proposing is what's called a bioretention pond. It's where, when you look at the pond, it's gonna be a depression in it, but it's gonna be completely sodded. Wanted to make sure that's clear, that it's not a wet pond. It's not gonna stay wet. It's intended to look like a grassed area. It will fill up with water, but it's supposed to soak down into the ground, goes into a pipe system, and then it's trickled out instead of a big overflow. It's designed for the 25-year storm. So if you do have a major rain, if we have another Floyd or another hurricane, obviously, it's going to overflow like any other thing. But it's designed to take all of the asphalt, all of the building roof, it goes into a drainage system and into the pond. So anything that's not ground, it's, pavement, roof, sidewalks, it's all going into this pond to protect the neighbors from any washout coming from this development. But those are the ones I wanted to address. If you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer whatever I can.
Any questions from commissioners?
I
on the
do.
engineering
Yes,
part?
sir.
What is a 25-year storm design? How much water would that take care of? Say we had a situation like we could have had the other day with a hurricane, and you have 10 inches of rain in 4 or 5 hours. Where does the water go?
Well, there will be a time where when you have a ton of water like that, there is an overflow device. So it will basically breach the top of the bank and overflow, just like you would any other shopping center, any other type of development. Has the same system. It's to prevent the dam from busting out if you have a heavy storm. So if you have 25-year storm would probably be if you had 5 inches in an hour, 5 to 10, somewhere in that range. It wouldn't be 50-year storm, which would be, more like a small hurricane. What was Floyd was 100-year or 500-year, right? So I'm not really sure. I couldn't give you exact numbers on how much rain it would be, but that's the way it's designed.
So if you have 10 inches of rain in 2 or 3 hours, this retention pond's going to overflow, is that right?
There's a possibility.
If you had 18, 19 inches of rain like we had when Floyd come,
Oh, yeah. That's like,
in that case,
Yeah.
everything's going to overflow.
Everything's gonna overflow.
But in case of a big rain or a 25-year rain, and the pond overflows, where does it go from this
it's
property?
going to go to the wetlands on the east side.
Gonna go to the same place it's always
Yeah.
going.
So right now, it's already coming across 97, so it's going to go into the same. So where it's draining right now, it's draining to that southeast corner of that property. With the current development that's there, when it rains, everything's still draining based on topography to that southeast corner.
So to answer Mr. Glover's concern about the water that's back of his house and maybe on his property behind his house, this whole thing to me is on a hill. Why won't that water go to the branch below his house? Is there some way to make sure that this water off this property goes where it's supposed to rather than backing up? Has that been looked at?
I'm not sure I understand. It's designed so when it rains, it's going to cover all your asphalt. It's going to go into the pond, and then that pond's going to treat it. So we're going to have any type of nitrogen and everything supposed to go into the pond, and then it goes. So it's going to stay its natural course, but we're slowing it down. We're preventing it from a massive rush.
So in a big rain, Mr. Glover don't get any more water than he's getting now? Is that the way
That's
this
correct.
is designed?
We're going to catch most of it, and then we're going to let out that portion slower. So if you have a heavier rain, there's still a huge amount of volume that we're keeping, and then the rest of it's going to overflow. But what we've kept inside the pond is going to trickle out after the storm ends. So instead of all of it coming off at one time, we're still holding a huge amount of volume. But we can't hold but so much, just like the rivers, Tar River can't hold but so much. That's how this property is going to be designed as well.
Dan, I might.
Does that make sense?
Sure. I think I might could help you by making one statement. When we design a pond like that, what we have to do is design it such that the rate that the water leaves that property is the same in post-development as it is before the development was put there. In other words, if it was grass, and then we had a certain coefficient for grass that it runs off, then when you put pavement, it runs off a lot quicker. So that water goes in that pond, and that pond keeps it and releases it at the same rate that it did prior to construction, is what the whole theory is about.
So in a 5-inch drain, then that pond's gonna hold all that water
That's right.
off that building in that parking lot?
That's right.
Up to a 25-year.
Okay, I understand.
I'm assuming, Adam, that the church that paved recently probably did not have to do anything as far as retention because it was already gravel.
Yeah, today is the first I'm hearing that.
Okay. Well, gravel's considered impervious also, so I would think that it was probably already impervious, but if you paved any new area.
Beyond the boundary, they might trigger.
Right, I'm not sure what was handled there.
Well,
Any other questions, Mr. Belfield?
no, I was just gonna say specific vegetation within that holding pond will help keep it pretty much at its level. You won't have much of an overflow, not unless you have an extensive runoff, which means probably anywhere above 5 or 6 inches coming at one time.
Well, that's a complicated formula on the amount of inches falling and the amount of time it fell is what governs what storm it was.
What might be DOT's plans for that crossroad? You say do away with the wings, make it a true crossroad. Does that mean it becomes a 4-way stop, as caution light, stop light? Is that where they're headed?
We
Down the
haven't
road?
seen the signaling or the stop part of it. We just, all they showed us was that they were getting rid of those wings and making it a true intersection. I don't know if it's a 2-way or 4-way or stoplight.
Wayne, have you seen that on your ROP plan as of yet?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Do I have anyone else that wishes to speak under this public hearing? Mr. Coleman? All right, we'll swear you in, sir.
Put your left hand right there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
I don't have property around this intersection. I have
State your name
something.
and address.
Mark Cone, 862 NC 231 Spring Hope.
For the
Sorry about
record.
that.
Thank you, sir.
I was saying, I don't have property around this intersection. I have something much more precious goes through that intersection every day, and that's my daughter. You're talking about safety, DOT making that a true intersection. I would ask that you, before you completely approve this, because no doubt it's going to get approved, it meets the criteria, but you need to see what that safety is. With those of you who didn't go to Southern Nash, and I understand you went to Northern, not all of us are blessed to be Firebirds, but in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, we had a place called Dickerson's Store at the intersection of Southern Nash Road. When I was 15 years old, I lifted a car with 5 other guys off of a girl in that intersection. That was not an anomaly in that intersection. And they've added the stoplight there. It's still a dangerous intersection. All that traffic, and I'm telling you, your engineer needs to bigger parking lot. Because Southern Nash, between the hours of 3:30 and 4:30, will be in that parking lot every day from August to June. I know, I went to school there. My daughter's gonna go up and down that road. I go up and down every day, went up and down it this morning. All I'm asking before you completely let this thing ride is see what DOT has planned, because the most precious cargo we have in our lives, a lot of it rides by that store
every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Combs. All right, we have anyone else wish to speak during the public hearing? Seeing no one, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Leggett, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Richardson. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Now, at discussion from the board members prior to accepting a motion. Any discussion at this time? Seeing none, we have a three-part process here, and the first part would be a motion on a consistency statement, either A or B, with the items stated below it in your agenda package. And I would entertain a motion for that at this time.
Before we do that,
Yes, sir.
is there any way we could find out what DOT's plans is for that crossroad before we move forward?
I don't think there's a way we can find out today. We could table this matter and invite the DOT to come give us a brief presentation. My knowledge is basically what Mr. Purdum's is, that they're going to do away with the wings and make it a true crossroads, but I don't know anything about the signaling. So if you wanted that information, we can certainly bring it to you, but I think it would require you to table this item till later.
And I really don't know that whatever their plan is, it's going to make it, I don't know that it would change the situation with this piece of property, so I just.
Right. But DOT was satisfied when the applicant removed the second driveway from the site plan.
Adam, any comment from DOT that was addressed during the process other than that driveway? Did they bring forward that they were doing away with those wings?
Yes, they told us that at the technical review committee.
So that was a statement made, and it seemed to be in a timely manner?
Yes, it seemed like that was something that was, actually, they had been out to the site and been flagging, things had been surveyed and flagged because they were anticipating fairly quick action. You know, quick means a different thing when it goes to NCDOT, but they were anticipating it.
I've looked at it several times. I looked at it the last time this morning, just, trying to see and figure out what's going on. So I don't know that whatever they're going to do, they would do it with the intention it makes the whole intersection safer, Dollar General or not. And so.
Well, if they're gonna do away with the wings, it would be traffic count driven, what type of device is put in the intersection, we know that.
Yeah.
So Dollar General may help it get to a stoplight, or may not. I'm not really sure about that, but that's certainly all under their preview. Other comments? Again, I would entertain a motion at this time then. And
I make a motion to approve the consistency statement A.
and items stated below, Mr. Belfield?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
right.
All right, I have a consistency statement, A motion that includes item 1 and 2 below consistency statement and the subheadings under 1 and 2. Is there a second to that motion?
I would just say that as an option to approval today, we've got a meeting in a couple of weeks, and that would give us time to review this with the DOT, if Mr. Cohn has that concern, and try to determine what their thoughts are for that intersection.
Well, I really don't think I don't think it'll change this track, whatever they decide to do, so.
Well, I know
we need to
most
just
of
go ahead.
these locations, I know out in, on 97, where we've got a Dollar General, it's right across from the food line. There's a lot of business going on in that area, but there is a stoplight in that area, and there is a stoplight at Sandy Cross, and there's a stoplight in Red Oak, and there's a stoplight in most of these locations. I just throw that out as an option that, you could delay or table it for a couple of weeks to at least satisfy yourself on that point. But the final outcome is going to be the same, I would think.
I think you're right, too.
All right, I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? That motion carries. Next motion that I would need would be a motion to approve or deny the zoning request.
Make a motion to approve the zoning request.
Have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Ms. Richardson. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion as well, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. And then I need a third motion. Mr. Tyson, would you state what the third motion needs to say, if you would, since you are very diverse in this, sir?
It is to approve or deny the issuance of a conditional use permit, and at the same time to authorize the 1070 watershed development option.
Including those 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5.
1 through 5 conclusions, and then 3 conditions.
Okay. All right, I'd entertain a motion as Mr. Tyson outlined for us at this time.
Move for approval, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Ms. Richardson. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bellfield. Any questions on that motion? Let it be known by say, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? That motion carries. And Wayne, I'm going to ask you if you would. I know you are.
I was getting ready to say
Okay.
that prior to our meeting on the 23rd, I will interact with the DOT, and I may even take Ms. Cone with me when I do that.
Okay.
And we'll try to determine exactly what their thoughts are for that particular intersection.
Yeah, Mr. Outlaw is our representative on the Rural Transportation Planning Committee, so we'll certainly look into that, Mr. Tyson, so we'll know moving forward what we got
made a note on
coming
that.
forward with that. All right, that concludes that item on the agenda. I've been signaled to take about a 10-minute break at this time, so I declare us in recess. Call the meeting back to order at this time, and we're now on item number 9, which is the security system improvements for the Nash County Detention Facility, and I would ask Mr. Boone. No, there he is. He moved on me. Okay, I thought he'd slipped out.
Hard to hit a moving target.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As commissioners are likely aware, a working group has been meeting since May of 2019 to evaluate projects related to improvements at the Nash County Detention Facility. You may also recall that in the FY20 budget, the commissioners approved $500,000 to fund these improvements. And this was in addition to the $120,000 that were approved for plumbing improvements and $125,000 that was approved to modernize the elevator at the sheriff's office. Since this group began meeting in May, a number of projects have been completed or are underway. These projects include the renovations to dorms 1, 2, and 3, repairs to the locks, door sensors, and central control software used to remotely monitor and operate these locks, the relocation of several existing cameras and the installation of additional call boxes in the facility, reinforcement of the fencing and gates on the perimeter of the facility outside of dorms 1, 2, and 3 in the female dorm, and lighting upgrades in the bar sections of the jail. And this is the older part of the jail built in the late 1970s. From the onset of our meetings earlier this year, one of our top priorities, and certainly a top priority for the sheriff's office, has been the expansion of the security system and video cameras used to remotely monitor activity in the facility. The sheriff's office received a preliminary proposal from a vendor that they currently have a relationship with and that installed the current system in the facility in late April of this year. This proposal was shared with the working group and identified as one of the main objectives for our group moving forward. Based on the anticipated cost of this work and the preliminary proposal provided by Cornerstone Detention Products, the group felt that it would be important to identify other vendors that specialize in this work and make sure that these improvements would meet the stated need and that it would do so cost effectively. Since detention facility staff will be the end user The Nash County Sheriff's Office, and specifically Lieutenant Philip Parker, took the lead with limited support from Public Utilities and Facilities to identify and meet with additional vendors. Based on feedback and proposals compiled in conjunction with this effort, a request for proposals was developed and issued on Tuesday, August 27th, seeking formal proposals for this work. As outlined in the memo provided in your packet, 2 proposals were received on Thursday, September 5th. This was this past Thursday. One from Cornerstone Detention Products in the amount of $359,573, and one from Johnson Controls. And they had 2 options. Again, those are outlined in your memo, one for $170,000, the other for $182,500. Based on a review of these proposals, staff is recommending that this contract be awarded to Johnson Controls Incorporated in the amount of $182,500. It is recommended, however, that the award be subject to a couple of items. One is review and approval of proposed improvements by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and 2, successful negotiation of a multi-year annual maintenance contract for the entire system. That's both the new cameras, which there are 55, and the existing cameras, which there are about 66. We'll mention in the proposal, if you had a chance to review that, you will see that the proposal asks for anywhere from 55 to 75 cameras. That was kind of the range that the Sheriff's Office had received from vendors they had talked to. We did not want to pigeonhole any vendor in terms of tailoring their recommendation to the county for these improvements. But the proposal that is recommended is from Johnson Controls, and the total number of cameras are 55. With that said, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to attempt to answer those. Lieutenant Parker could not be with us this morning due to a training commitment.
Mr. Boone, for the benefit of the press, could you repeat all of that one more time, a little bit slower?
I'll be glad to give him a printed copy.
I'll give him a copy of that, that'd be great, that's good.
Well, the
Any questions?
Yeah, the security system, you're talking about doing that now?
Yes, sir. This would be to expand the existing camera system, of which there are about 66 cameras. This would add an additional 55 cameras to the system. Primarily focused on, I guess I should have said, the new cameras will be focused more on the residential areas, the dorms, some improvements in the exercise yard, where I think you're aware we've had some incidents, and then addressing some blind spots internal to the facility.
I'm asking a question because there's some other renovations supposed to be going on.
Yes, sir.
Wouldn't it be appropriate to do that first before you install the security system?
I wouldn't want to speak for the Nash County Sheriff's Office, but I do not believe that these improvements would necessarily in any way be an impediment to any additional improvements in the jail. The things we've talked about prioritizing are locks. I mentioned those in my report. Security cameras, which have been a high priority for the sheriff due to security-related concerns, not only for the employees, the detention officers, but also for the inmates. And it addresses needs in areas where they currently do not have surveillance capabilities. And due to some of their manpower limitations, they feel like having that additional surveillance would be beneficial from an operational standpoint. Other items that we are looking at are some improvements in the kitchen, the freezer cooler. We're looking at renovation of some of the bar areas in that older portion of the jail, when I mentioned, which would not be in conflict with these cameras. Other items that we're talking about caught me a little bit off guard. Let me look at my list, if you don't mind. Some lighting upgrades, which I mentioned in a report. We're starting to work on those. And HVAC controls. We've got 2 independent systems in the jail that need to be integrated. Again, this camera system will not be an impediment to those types of projects. But safety is certainly a very important issue, and one that the sheriff has been very passionate about.
Well, we allowed the sheriff to rank or put priority on these items, and his first priority has always been the camera system, so. But the other work we're doing.
So that's been the sheriff's
Yes, sir.
first priority?
Every time we've spoke to him, it's been the first one. But really, as Mr. Boone said, there's no conflict between that and anything else we're doing anyway. In fact, it will enhance everything else we're doing.
Okay. And so, and the sheriff understands?
Yes, sir. He set the priorities for us.
Okay.
In one of the earlier meetings we had. Other questions from commissioners?
I just would like to ask if we could, give us a cumulative listing of everything by itemize it that we've spent on the jail from day one and keep adding to it as the priorities are established? If you could do that?
We're glad to do
So
that.
it sounds like we've spent, I know we've spent a lot of money, and we keep spending money, and I keep hearing a few saying that this is money not well spent. We should be building a new jail. So I would just like to see, are we meeting the priorities of the sheriff? And how much total money are we spending on the jail?
I will tell you, we're currently in the ballpark, if this contract is approved, at about $300,000.
Well, but I'm talking about back to the initial breakout where we had the fence issue. I think that's when it really started,
That includes projects that have been completed since.
which we put in, I know, like
Escape and Spring.
500,000 previously, and we got 182 here, and you mentioned some other things. I just think it'd be beneficial to the full board to have a listing of everything that we've spent and just keep adding to it as we spend. And I'm okay with the spending if the sheriff is okay with it, if it's good money that we're spending to fix things that need to be fixed, and we're not going to spend all this money and then hear that, well, you know, it's just money that you've kind of wasted because we need to build a new jail.
Right, I understand.
We can provide the list.
Okay.
Mr. Outlaw, certainly we can do that.
Yeah.
Chairman?
Mr. Manager?
That's a good.
Yeah, if we, what we'll do is incorporate that spending in our capital projects reports that we give the commissioners once a month.
That'll be good.
It'd be great.
I'll make sure we're a good place for it. Any other questions about the security system? Anything else you want to add, Mr. Boone?
No, sir.
What the action is today is for us to approve the low bid, which is, Mr. Boone has outlined for us from Johnson Controls. I will say I appreciate this county staff being insistent that we get multiple pricing on this large investment, because it certainly paid off, as we are really paying about half of what we originally would have paid, and actually all the parties involved, including the sheriff's department, agrees that it's a better system than what it would have been at the higher price. So, I appreciate the staff's due diligence as well as our finance director on insisting that it be done that way, even though it took some time, but it's some time well spent. But with that said, I'd entertain a motion for approval of this request.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wells. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs and Leggett at the same time, I think. Any other questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Mr. Boone, if you would order the cameras out, that you satisfy yourself on the two contingency items, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We're now on item number 10, which is Spring Hope Community Park Playground, and I'll call on Thomas to make this presentation for us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Back in 2013, the town of Spring Hope received a Part F grant from the North Carolina Parks and Recreation Trust Fund, which included installation of donated playground equipment from a former daycare center in the Research Triangle Park. According to Part F terms, since the playground equipment was included in the Part F application, the town should be responsible for maintaining the equipment for 25 years. Earlier this year, Part F visited the Spring Hope Community Park and informed the town of Spring Hope that due to hazardous conditions, the playground equipment would need to be removed and replaced with comparable value equipment. Back in June, the playground equipment was removed from the town of Spring Hope Community Park. So after receiving quotes between the prices of $49,000 and $52,350, a playground vendor will be selected soon if the addendum is approved. In your packet, you can find an interlocal agreement between the county and the town of Spring Hope and an addendum to the agreement for the purchasing of playground equipment. Currently, the town of Spring Hope is paying the county $7,000 annually for park improvements. However, according to the addendum, with the purchase of new playground equipment, the town would increase its annual payment to $10,000 on or before August 2020. I would like to show some pictures of the old playground to see the conditions. And this equipment was removed, as I said, back in June. All right. The Board of Commissioners for the Town of Spring Hope approved the addendum to the interlocal agreement on Tuesday, September 3rd. I'm recommending to the board to approve the addendum of the interlocal agreement which allows the county to purchase equipment for the Spring Hope Community Park. Any questions?
I got a comment. That equipment that was there I would not let my 2-year-old granddaughter climb on that stuff. It was just terrible. I made the comment to the town, you need to just get rid of this stuff, and the need's great. And when it comes time, I'd certainly recommend we go ahead with it.
Another comment?
Yes, a question. When I was reading this over the weekend, thought came to my mind, are they purchasing new equipment? Is this already used equipment?
If the addendum is approved, we will purchase new equipment for the park in Spring Hope.
So, when they were purchasing, I was thinking, isn't this purchase coming from UNC Healthcare?
The old equipment that you're looking at on the screen, that equipment was donated from a daycare.
Okay. That's all. I was just wondering if you removing that old equipment, you ought to put in new. That was the only concern I had.
Any other commissioner have comment or questions? Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, last Monday night, Thomas and I attended the Spring Hope Town Council meeting and discussed this matter. Back in, I think, 16, we entered into an agreement where they would pay, August of 15, where they would pay $7,000 a year towards the cost of the improvement of the restrooms at the park. That is about paid for at this point, in addition to repaying the county for the bathroom improvements. Other capital improvements are taken out of that $7,000 also. The county's responsible for all operating costs, including utilities, cutting grass, maintaining the facility. So we're at a point now where they still owe maybe $3,000 through the end of June. What we proposed is that we raise that $7,000 to $10,000 indefinitely. We will acquire and pay for the equipment, and we will use that $10,000 a year to pay off the equipment, but be aware that there may be other capital needs during the next 5 or 6 years that will also require part of that $10,000 to be drawn down. So we recommend this. We've been talking with Spring Hope for several months about this. This is required under their part of agreement to replace the dilapidated playground equipment. And so we would recommend approval.
You stated indefinitely. I think the agreement actually says to 2045.
No, 2045, yes, yes. Till 2045, I'm sorry.
You legal people don't generally like something to be indefinite, if I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
2045 is, to me, is indefinite.
And that is subject to a future addendum if
need be.
If need be.
I got you, okay. I can't help but notice that we started out, Tom, and we're going to award this contract today. Now it looks like we're not. Is there any reason why we couldn't award it, or are y'all still working on it?
We're still working on it. We received some more quotes and renderings from other playground vendors. So we're hoping to finalize that by the end of this week.
Given the amount of the purchase, it required informal bids from other vendors. I do have a question about the process, and I just want to make sure that first quote was not publicized anywhere, either at their meeting or otherwise, because we later got those other two quotes after the fact. So I just want to make sure they weren't privy to that number. And if they were, we probably need to just do a new formal or informal bid process. So we'll talk about that.
Okay.
But
The numbers look suspicious, I will agree, but I don't know anything about how y'all went about it. But if you were ready to approve it, it'd be a good time to do it. If you're not, I understand, maybe you can bring it back at our next meeting this month.
we'll bring it back as a budget amendment. What this does is allow us to enter into that agreement and spend up to $52,500. So we will come back with a budget amendment.
At the next meeting?
Yeah, we need to award it at the next meeting?
With an informal bid, it doesn't require the commissioner's formal approval,
Okay,
but I will have to do a budget amendment to
And
account for
bring
any
it back.
purchase.
That's good, okay. Any other questions on it? And basically what we're doing here is the same thing we did with the other two major parks, somewhat different than what we're doing at Cooper's presently, but they are providing all the capital improvements on the park, and we're doing the maintenance and the operations of it. So I don't see any different. We are just entering basically into a simple financing agreement to help them with the capital cost moving forward, to what the board's down to. But it's still the right thing to do, I think, and certainly, Dan, after looking at those pictures, I agree, we needed.
I wouldn't let her play on them because, I mean, it was just splinters and everything else just crawling in them, but she could, I'd sit her on the sliding board on the plastic part and let her slide down. She could crawl up there because she'd get stuff stuck all in her.
Yeah, it definitely was filled with
Saying that,
entanglements and
Mr.
trappings.
Chairman, I make a motion, we approve this addendum.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion stands approved. Item 11 is,
Mr. Chairman,
did you have something else?
yes, sir, I would like to discuss an incident that occurred yesterday at the Spring Hope Community Park in the bathrooms. I just wanted to make the board aware that a fire was reported at the Spring Hope Community Park around 12:30 in the bathrooms yesterday. The fire was started in a garbage can in the women's bathroom, and they attempted to start one in the men's bathroom as well by using toilet paper and lighting it on the floor. The Spring Hope Police has determined the case to be an arson investigation, and our facility maintenance department was on site this morning assessing the damage to the bathrooms. In the meantime, we're gonna move forward with portable toilets until we begin work and determine how long a timeline for that. And I have a picture of the damage.
My goodness.
Yeah. So this happened yesterday, as I said. I just want to make the board aware of the situation.
When you find them, don't put them in our Nash County jail.
But that's all. Thank you, sir.
Let me ask, do we have any kind of cameras where we could capture?
We don't have any cameras in the vicinity. We had locks on the bathroom, and
So was the bathroom locked, they broke into it?
yes, sir.
Okay.
You say that was yesterday midday?
Yes, sir.
Have you got any cameras on the site itself?
No, we do not have any cameras on the
It
site.
seems like everywhere they've got cameras now.
Yeah, we don't have any on the site at the park.
Can you check with the school system as well?
I can definitely check with the school system as soon as I leave the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
You may have a possibility there. I'm sure they've got.
If you keep it locked in a camera, some type of strategically located cameras might give you some insight into who's doing something like this.
That's terrible.
And then maybe we can do something about it.
Any more
You
questions?
didn't have any issue in the ladies?
Well, the latest, the fire was, that's the latest bathroom.
Oh, that is the ladies.
Yeah, they put some type of toilet paper or paper towels in the trash can, lit that on fire, and the residue caused it to put, to get onto the men's bathroom as well. So the men's bathroom is not as bad as the ladies' bathroom. I haven't been on site because I had the meeting this morning, but as soon as I leave here, I'm going on site. But facility maintenance is on site, and they're going to give us a timeline on how long it's going to take to renovate the bathrooms. In the meantime, we're going to get a porta john out there as soon as possible.
Hadn't had any problem with any individual you had to ban from the programs down there, have you?
No, it was a lady, according to the police report, a lady in the neighborhood seen 2 juveniles leaving the facility around that time.
Okay. But no issue with anyone in your programs that?
I hope not. Not that I know of.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you for that update, though not good. All right, we're now on item number 11, which is approving the record retention and disposal schedule for general records.
Good morning. What I have, my item, as Chairman Davis indicated, is a resolution approving the records retention and disposition schedule for general records schedule for local government, agencies, and county management. Description of the item: the local retention and disposition schedules are a tool of the employees of local government across the state to use when managing the records in their offices. It lists records commonly found in local government offices and gives an assessment of their value by indicating when and if those records should be destroyed. These schedules are an agreement between the local government office and the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, and as the inventory and schedule that the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources is directed by general statutes. These schedules must be approved by the governing board before the county is permitted to destroy records according to the schedule. That approval should be made in a regular meeting and recorded as an action in the minutes. The approval may be done as part of a consent agenda by resolution or other action. I'm presenting a resolution. Copies of the full records retention and disposition schedules are, and the related internal policies are available in your Board of Effects library and also on file in the office of the clerk. The attached resolution is being presented for approval to permit Nash County local government to manage records as recommended through the available schedules for local government agencies and county management provided by the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. And we already have, these original record retention schedules were approved in 1991. Since then, they've had an amendments or an adjustments. So one is for 2013 and one's for 2019, in addition to some amendments that took place in 2016. So we're just catching our records up to make sure that we have our records retention schedule at based on what they currently have in place at the Department of Natural and Cultural Resources. And if this resolution is approved, then we'll send the required signature pages to the state to implement our new schedules.
All right, any questions on what Ms. Woods is requesting this morning? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. If you want to go on with budget amendments, Ms. Woods.
Okay, so for the budget amendments for today's meeting, I have several reappropriations. The first one is within the Sheriff's Department. It's a reappropriation of $24,562. These are for items from last year for community support, intended for community support, K-9 program donations, DARE programs, and technology improvements, the JAG grant. And the next item is within emergency services. This is a reappropriation of unspent fiscal year 2019 supplemental emergency management grant of $25,990. The next reappropriation is within the Department of Social Services for 2019 funds received for Special Child Adoption Fund. This is $36,511. The next item for reappropriation is within Parks and Recreation 2019, from 2019, local sponsorship donations, $1,670. The next item is from Aging Services. It's $26,681. It's from the SHIP program, the Medicare Improvement Patient and Provider Act program, Project Lifesaver donations, Senior Center program donations, and cost share programs, which were unspent. The next reappropriation is within the Soil and Water Department. from 2019 Cover Crop Initiative grant funds, and Ecology Day donations, $3,943. And the final reappropriation is within the Cooperative Extension Department for Farm to Early Care Education Grant, $270 to be reappropriated. The next item is with the Health Department. This budget amendment is to budget community alternative program funds to accommodate increased patient requests for specialized equipment, mobility aids, and home modifications. These requests are part of the overall care plans for the CAP patients, and all such requests are approved at the state level for 100% Medicaid reimbursement to the program. No local dollars are required for these expenditures. The request is for $75,000. The next item is for the current year within the Sheriff's Office. This budget amendment appropriates donated funds and other items for community service support, $250. The next item, also from the Sheriff's Office, but with federal asset forfeiture funds. This amendment is to approve overtime for the highway interdiction team, to approve funding for 2 state surplus vehicles for administrative use, 2 Chargers, and for 1 F-150 truck to replace surplus or out-of-service vehicles. And it's a request of $164,400. And the final item I have is with emergency services. This budget amendments to budget fiscal year 2019 Tier 2 grant proceeds from the North Carolina Division of Emergency Management for hazardous materials, emergency response planning, training, and related exercises. It's for $1,000, and no county funds are required.
Ms. Wood, that's a total of 10 amendments. Any of those need separate items or separate motions, or we can do them all together?
I believe you can do all of them at the same time.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion for approval to the 10 budget items.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Wells. Any question on either amendment? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Budget amendment stand approved. Thank you, Ms. Wood. We'll move to item number 13. Whoop. I skipped something. Budget amendments. Nope. Item 13 is for the Nash Rocky Mount Board of Education declaring 2 properties surplus and offering those to the county as per statute for us to purchase if we so desire. Stacy?
That's correct.
That's correct. I understand these. My memory of this is the 2 residential properties that were bought by the school board during the time that they were evaluating major expansions at the old location of Rocky Mount Senior High. When they were going to renovate and add to, they started buying up residential properties around that facility. And then, of course, there was a change in action, and I'm really surprised they've held on to it for this long. Is that what you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So those are 2 residential properties that they bought during that period of time, which has got to be at least close to 10 years ago, I guess. Go ahead. Any other information?
There is no additional information. You have the tax cards as part of your agenda packet, and I can put them up here on the screen as well. The properties are 813 Western Avenue and 216 South Tillery Street, and both in Rocky Mount.
I don't know, Mr. Lamb, do you know of any reason why the county would have use for those properties?
Not at this time, no, sir.
Okay. So the action we need to do is to, let them know we call for a motion to accept the budget amendment as presented? That ain't quite right, is it?
Motion to decline the purchase, the county, to let them know the county's not interested in
I think we got a cut and paste item.
I apologize for that.
That's okay. No
Oversight there.
What I need is a motion from the Nash County Board of Commissioners to decline the offer to purchase those properties.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Richards, there seconded that motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Is there any questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Before we vote.
Back up, excuse me. I have a motion and a second, Mr. Belfield.
Did they state why they were putting it up as surplus property? I know they usually, when they do that, it's something that they don't need. but it's there around the school. They're not looking at the future.
Mr. Belfield, you know, we have a campus there currently that has been underutilized and extremely large for what we're doing there. I don't know why they probably made a decision, and I'm not speaking for the board, that they do not need those additional residential homes around there. I'm a little bit surprised they hadn't disposed of them some time ago when we built the high school.
I think they should have stated it, why they don't need it.
Well, they may have. Do you know if they stated why they didn't need them?
In the letter that was part of your packet, it just states that they determined them to be surplus property. They're no longer necessary for school purposes.
Okay. You okay with that?
No, I understand that. I mean, what you said the letter said, but it just seemed like to me that they're surrounding the school that they should take into consideration in the future. I mean, all of us probably be gone, but
Well, I feel like Ms. Belfield,
then they wouldn't have to be buying anymore later on, say, oh, we need to add this or expand this. I know they have a building there that's not being used.
Right.
But
Well, you have to assume that they've done their due diligence, and they're just offering us the opportunity
Well,
to purchase
statute-
that land, and I think the decision for us is, do we want to purchase it or not?
Yeah, you know, Mr. Belfield, you and I both know as well as the rest of the members that they don't generally like for us to get in their business too deep, and
I understand
that may be an intrusion, what you're
see,
asking.
but we can also, but we can make suggestions, but
All right.
they've made that decision, so.
Okay.
Ms. Boyd, you got a motion on the floor, let's go on and carry it out.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All of in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries, and we will let them know that. Lisa, while you're there, we'll go to 14, which is board appointments.
Yes, sir. So this one's been in front of you all for a couple months now for the Tourism Development Authority, the TDA. We did receive an application, and it's in your agenda packet, for Brittany Parker, who is employed by the Courtyard and Residence Inn by Marriott. Ms. Parker comes to you recommended by both our Chairman Davis and our Retail Economic Development Director, Susan Phelps.
And then those members, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Those members have to be affiliated with motels?
What's the
Collector.
term? Collector members.
And
Yes.
Both the openings we currently have are collectors.
Well, yeah, I thought so, that's why I
Sure.
had not recommended anybody.
Right. And I've got one more I'm working on. As I stated last month, there's been a lot of turnover in all the people that work at those hotels, and even ownerships right lately. And by the time I identify somebody, they would take a job somewhere else and get gone. But this young lady is hopefully here. She's a Rocky Mount native, and I think hopefully she'll be here for a while. And I've got one more that I'm working on that I should have at the next meeting for appointments. That I
So
would
staff
recommend.
members can also be staff members at the hotels? Yeah.
Staff members, as long as they work at the hotel or have ownership in it, yes, sir.
Okay.
And if any board member has someone, please pass the name along to me. We will surely check out the criteria.
From that standpoint, I make a recommendation.
All right, be
But at
glad.
least I'll make a contact and
Sure.
see.
Yeah, well, just let us know. We'll be glad to talk to it. We just verify that they meet the criteria of what the statute says.
Do the two members that their terms have expired, they have chosen not to stay on the board?
They have actually both relocated.
Okay, great.
They've got, those are some of them that got transferred or
Oh,
took
they
another job in another area.
Relocated.
Yeah. One of them is Miss Chavis's daughter, and the other one was a lady that was at the same place that this young girl, this girl took one of my previous members' place at the Residence Inn.
Okay.
And she actually recommended her as well. But I would entertain a motion to approve the one we have here today.
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Combs. Any questions on that motion?
Yeah, who is the person that we have today?
Brittany
Brittany Parker.
Parker, and she's at the Residence Inn. I think you got our application in there. Looks a little bit different because you sent it to me by computer or sent it to Stacy by computer.
And so I missed it over the weekend.
It's in there, but I remember seeing it, Mr. Bellfield. You okay for me to move on with the vote?
Move the other way. You need to go the other way.
Was it updated?
Just go down, go the other way.
Was this
There you
part of
go.
the
Keep going.
update?
It was.
He might not have updated.
Well, he said,
Keep going.
he said,
No, you didn't get, there's an update, you didn't get it in there. I've got it right here, you can look at it though.
you okay if I move forward with the vote, Mr. Bellfield?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I just didn't know.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries as well. Next item on the agenda, thank you, Stacy, would be the monthly tax report. Doris, good morning. You waited patiently.
Yes, sir. As you have before you the monthly tax report, as you know, this report is designed to keep the board current on activities in the tax collector's office. The report is for your information only and does not require approval. It is recommended that you accept the report so that it be noted in the minutes. And I'll be glad to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions on the monthly tax report? If not, it stands, what did you say? Noted that we
Noted,
accept it. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
All right, move on to item refund.
And we do not have any refunds that need approval for this month.
No items that need refund. Mr. Lamb, you got any comment on tax at this time? I know you're still grinning, but go ahead and talk.
No, I will say I appreciate Amanda's article in the Nashville Graphic. She interviewed Doris and me, and I think it shows the hard work that the tax office is doing. To be at the level we're at is really a testament to the hard work that Doris and her staff does, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Appreciate that. I am now on item number 17, which is commissioner comments. Be glad to hear from any commissioner on anything you wish to say at this time.
I would like to echo what our county manager just said and thank Amanda for touring to get the jail. I did that. I saw the same thing that she saw, but I also saw dedicated people over there working. And thank you for being unbiased and giving your honest opinion.
Other comments?
I just wanted to mention that I know everybody received an invitation to participate in the Spring Hope Pumpkin Festival, and so if it would be appropriate, I would like to ask that maybe Mr. Cone or Ms. Leggett or whoever would be appropriate, one of those two, to try to coordinate to see what participation we might have. I know in the past we've participated in the parade and things like that.
If we want to participate, though, we need to know how many of us, and we need to get word back to Janice and whoever.
That's what I'm asking for somebody to do from that area.
I think it was, and I agree, if you wouldn't, Sue would make us give you an answer and schedule that and let them know, it'd be great.
I'd expect that, but in the closed session today, sir.
Okay, that's fair enough. You can get it. How long will you give us, Ms. Leggett?
Same timeline.
Same time, okay, what I thought. Any other comment?
October the 5th.
I just had one thing I wanted to enlighten the board on, which I thought was pretty fascinating during the last month. At the end of August, as we always do, we got the monthly report on public permits that's issued through our permitting department. And the number cruncher I am, I just took that report, and I'm very pleased to say that during the month of August, we had 44 new housing permits. Now, they were 16 modulars and 28 stick-built single-family permits. I don't remember it being that high, but I don't know if you've looked at the cost of those modulars now, but they get up into $170,000, $180,000 as well. But if you would take the 44, and this won't happen, but let's just say it would happen, I'm just trying to get the board to understand how important that residential home building is to our county and what the economic factor of it is. And if you take the 44 houses that were added in just the month of August, multiply it times 12, that's 528 houses. 528 houses on an annual basis. And I went through the permits, and these are assigned values by contractors when we get the permits, even though they are checked by square footage. And believe me, if a contractor gets a chance to assign the value, he's gonna assign it low as he thinks he can get by with to keep his permit costs down. Adam shouldn't tell you that in front of you, but we have a way we do check that. But the average of those 44 were about $200,000. You take $200,000 times 528, in a year's time, that would be an economic factor of $105,600,000 in just residential construction alone. I don't think we sometimes give our home builders in Nash County the gratitude that we have now that it has picked back up and what they do for us. And that number is $707,000 to Mr. Lamb's tax collection each year, which he will get 98.57% of.
98.83.
Excuse me, 98.83. I didn't write that number down. But I just thought it was fascinating that it amounted to that much. I was just doing a little math, and I had no idea it would be well over $100,000. And North and Christi knows we always would be tickled to death to get $105 million influx into our county at any time we could. I attempted to locate and research what the average home added in employees during that process. I wasn't able to come up with anything that I felt comfortable enough with that I would stake that number, but I can assure you to build those 44 houses or 528 annually, it would be a very large employee base that went along with that. But I just thought that was kind of fascinating. Thought I would share it with you. The second item that I wanted to bring forward is the rezoning request that we got coming up that we tabled, that is in the first meeting in October. We conducted and closed our public hearing on that item back at our August meeting. We tabled a decision. In my opinion, we had that public hearing and wouldn't have an additional public hearing on that. Does any board member have any issue with my thought on that, that we would just be actually taking action on it but not conducting an additional public hearing? That bother anybody? No. Okay, so that's where we'll be, Mr. Tyson, on that item. And that's all I had at this time. Any other manager, any other commissioner got a comment? Not, Mr. Lamb, I'll turn it over to manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a few things. Reminder that the Rocky Mount Chamber of Commerce Legislative Forum is this Thursday, September 12th at 8 a.m. at the Holiday Inn. During the weeks of September 16th through the 27th, we're going to be conducting our 2019 Employee United Way campaign. We will be bringing, recognizing employees at the November meeting and have a small reception, November 18th meeting, I should say, the second meeting in November. And we'll have a small reception in the break room before that meeting. We will need to hold a second meeting this month, Monday, September 23rd. We're going to ask that it be held in this room due to multiple public hearings scheduled rather than the conference room. I will be meeting with Dr. Burns next Tuesday, September 17th. On Wednesday, I will be meeting at noon with various parties regarding the involuntary commitment transport agreement that we've entered into, and I will give further details at a new meeting, at the next meeting. Again, I hope everybody has enjoyed our new audio-visual system here in the Commissioners' Room. It was less than $100,000. Half of that money was from grant funds, from the PEG funds, which I know what that stands for, Public Education and Government Funds. I got messed up earlier at an earlier meeting on what the G stood for, believe it or not. But
You did.
and these monitors, and we also have them here at our desk, replace monitors that were put in 1999. So those monochrome monitors that we had up here and those ancient TVs that were up there, I can assure you the taxpayers got their money's worth. But we're really excited about this new system. I went back there during one of the presentations when there was small print, and you could see it just as clear as day. So great job, Sandy, and your staff getting that set up. Regarding Dorian, we did dodge a bullet, but I would like to recognize emergency management for their preparedness, opening up a shelter for Dare County. We didn't have a whole lot of people coming in and using it, but we have an agreement with Dare County to provide them a shelter when necessary, and I think everything went really smooth. Also like to thank the Sheriff's Department, the Health Department, and DSS for their participation in the preparedness for the hurricane. On a good note, we collected each of the last 2 months for the months of July and August, the largest 2 monthly sales tax collections. So not only is our property tax base increasing, but for the last 2 months, we've collected over $1.4 million each month in sales tax. We anticipate we might have a slower month here and there because of the nonprofits that get refunded, the hospital, the school system, the city, the county. But at this pace, we're well above the projections for this year's budget. Regarding last year's final numbers for our budget, we had, as y'all know, added a lot of things during the year that we did not finance. Instead, we paid it out of fund balance. We had appropriated quite a bit in fund balance, and the numbers got better and better and better. And in the end, last year, on a cash basis, we only spent $111,000 out of fund balance. So we almost broke even, but for a while there, it was looking like a couple $1 million, but revenues always lag expenditures, and we did get some late revenues, including sales tax, that almost got us in the black, but we are very pleased to have only had to take $111,000 out of fund balance. So that maintains
Great number.
our current fund balance. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Could I just also mention that for the hurricane, appreciation to Nash Community College for partnering with our EMS group to provide the shelter that we didn't have a lot of need for, but they did provide the shelter.
Yes, thank you.
I will say that I actually got a call from a Dare County Commissioner, Steve House, over the weekend, just thanking Nash County for looking out for their few people that did come up here. I'm not sure if he's the chairman or not, but he's originally from Rocky Mount.
That's right.
And he did call me over the weekend and showed his gratitude from Dare County.
Great.
Nash County accommodating those. One last thing before I call for a closed session. I had a commissioner that asked, and can we legally do this, first of all, to have our meeting at the end of the month at 2 o'clock rather than at 1:30, and the purpose was that our Rotary Club, which 3 of us are members of, and would certainly like to invite any of you, particularly Mr. Outlaw, to be at that meeting, is when we will make the presentations for the scholarships that the Rotary Club gained through their Tackle the Talk fundraiser this year, which was a great fundraiser. And Z, do you remember the amount we awarded each one of our 3 colleges? I don't have that on my head.
It's a little over $27,000.
$27,000 each, so can we first of all legally do that?
Yes, sure.
Okay,
If you
as long
like.
as we make the announcement today.
Sure.
Also,
And we'll also send it to the Sunshine List.
okay.
The public notices in the newspaper have been placed. I don't think there's time to change it in the graphic or the Enterprise, but the one that legally matters is the Telegram, and I believe we have until tomorrow to make that adjustment. So I think we can accommodate it. Do you want to run it a second time in the graphic in the Enterprise with the correct time?
You're talking about public hearings, Mr. Stockton?
Yes, because we announced that they were to begin around 1:30.
I understand.
As long as you're after 1:30.
But I typically say, or soon thereafter is maybe, or I don't
Yeah.
know what the
Okay.
notices say.
I think it says to begin around 1:30, so if people were, do you think that's okay?
As long as we put up some notices out in the hallway.
Okay.
Have to wait on it.
It will be okay.
Good point, though.
Does he need to re-advertise it?
No, he was saying he did not need to re-advertise. I'm trying to find a comment that I can help Mr. Tyson get out the hole he just dug by stating that the only one that mattered was the Telegram. That's really not true.
It said legally matters.
Legally matters, okay. All right. Well, they all matter.
They all matter.
Thank you, sir. Yes, so if that's the case and everybody's okay with it, I'd entertain a motion. Is 2 o'clock okay? It's going to push us to get here because that's the actual program if you're really interested in it. Do you want
We'll
to
get
say?
them getting Nash Communities first.
Get them getting that muted first, okay.
Well, I mean,
2:30.
if it works for you guys, I
It's
mean,
usually out by 2, we won't be, I think.
Well, we probably need to keep it about 2 o'clock, simply because of the public hearings and not holding people up if they are here. So
we've got the interim president of the North Carolina Wesleyan coming.
Right.
On the 23rd, and of course, he had a previous commitment, and they weren't going to get here till 2, and that was kind of pushing them.
That was the commitment.
So, okay, so what I'll do is I'll
That'll
follow
help
up
him a
with
little bit.
them,
Okay.
and we'll set our agenda where they would be needed here by no later than 2:30, and then if they don't get here until 2:15 or so, they'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to leave it at 2 o'clock. We'll just leave right after the community college has their presentation. All right, I'd entertain a motion to make that change in the meeting till 2 o'clock.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Wells, there's a second to that motion.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any other questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? Motion carries. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to go into closed session. Closed session is for economic development update, some matters of attorney-client privileges, and one personnel matter. And Mr. Lamb, do we expect any action to be taken after it, or Mr. Durham after the closed session?
I don't believe so.
Okay. If we do for the press, we'll be glad to let you know, but I don't think there'll be any action taken after the closed session. So entertain that motion at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Richardson. Is there a second to the motion to go into closed session? Who was that, Mr. Belfield?
Nobody wants to go to the
Okay.
next day.
Have a second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign? We move into closed session.